Welcome back to Storytime with David. Today I'm working on the next volume of Sheriff in a Small Town. I have no idea what I'm going to have to come up with a new title for that. But I got basically the first chapter done. And I'll tell you what, if you don't mind, I'd like to read it to you and put comments out there so I know if you like it or not. If you don't like it, what don't you like? What should I change? So when we're starting the next book, Rocky, as you remember from the last book, if you read the last book, is now the sheriff and Talbot's his deputy. So we're going to kind of go over the first chapter, the first quote-unquote case. So Deputy Cap Talbot walked into the courthouse sweating. It was so hot a day, he and Sheriff Rocky were taking turns on the rounds. Rocky got up from the desk and checked himself in the mirror before setting out to do his round. Talbot sank into the chair and loosened his collar. You might want to hit the Co-op or Joe's for a soda. It's a scorcher today. Talbot turned the fan up higher and cooled off. Rocky walked out, trying to stay in the shade. It didn't help much. As he approached the hot dog hut, he heard a commotion and saw a man running out. The word robber reached his ear at the same time, and Rocky took off. The man saw Rocky in uniform and upped his speed. Rocky was dog-trotting, figuring the man would lose speed quickly in this heat. Sure enough, halfway down the street as they approached the field, the man slowed and then stopped. Doubled over, he held up a hand and was working to catch his breath. Rocky apprehended him, and they walked back to the hut to, 1, return the money he had stolen, and 2, get something cool to drink. At the hot dog hut, the man returned the money and apologized. Rocky got a soda for himself and a water for the robber. Walking to the courthouse, Rocky asked why. The man was apologetic. I can't get a job anywhere. I'm needing money. We're just about out of baby formula, and, well, you get the picture. Rocky looked at the man and asked him to introduce him to his family. Shrugging, the man led the way. It's pretty far out and off a rural road. Their home was a one-bedroom cabin that looked as if it had been there around forever. Water came from a river nearby, and he had built a makeshift outhouse. Inside was the bare necessities, and hardly that. His wife was seated on a milk crate at a spool table. In her arms, a young baby cried. Rocky swore under his breath. The man had been telling the truth. She looked up at the sight of her husband with the sheriff and sobbed. Oh, Tom, what have you done? Stepping outside, Rocky called on the radio for Talbot to stop off and pick up some formula and a few things from the Co-op. There was a fund in the back of the office for emergencies, and today it looked like an emergency. Rocky walked around the outside for a bit. Oops. Dang it. Sorry. One moment. Stepping outside, Rocky called on the radio for Talbot to stop off and pick up some formula and a few things from the Co-op. There was a fund in the back of the office for emergencies, and today it looked like an emergency. Rocky walked around outside for a bit. When he heard Talbot arriving with the siren blaring, he opened the door. Going back inside, Tom was kneeling beside his wife, apologizing and letting her know he was going to jail. She looked with terror at Rocky when he stepped inside. The siren died out as Talbot screeched to a halt. With a stern countenance, Rocky ordered Tom outside. Talbot was standing beside the squad car and had the door open. Talbot's face was firm, but his lips had a tendency to twitch into a smile. The man approached Talbot nervously. Talbot reached inside and pulled out a paper bag filled with formula and canned goods. Still inside were other bags of potatoes, onions, cabbage, and other vegetables that could keep well in a makeshift cellar. Returning inside, the man's wife was curled on the floor crying. Tom put the bag on the table and held his wife and child. He rose and went outside to the squad car to wait. Talbot put him in the back seat while Rocky said some words to Tom's wife. On the way into town, Rocky learned a few things. The man was having a hard time finding work because he had recently gotten out of jail. He had been incarcerated for assault when a drunk man tried to rape his wife. The drunk was a friend of the cop on duty, and it was Tom who was jailed. Rocky got angry and vowed to do something for Tom and his family. Trouble was, what could he do? He couldn't use another deputy. They stopped off at the station. Tom walked straight into the cell and closed the door. He didn't know what was going to happen, but the baby and his wife would eat for a while. Rocky pulled out his copy of the Sentinel and looked at jobs. And it says here the bank needs a new teller. He called over to Pastor Martin. Sir, have you got any suits in your locker? About my size, say 34 or 36 pants and a large jacket. Shirts and shoes, too. You do? Fantastic. We'll be right over. Rocky had to wake Tom up when his depressed state had fallen asleep. Tom, get up. We're heading over to the church. Tom was confused and shook his head to clear it. Getting up, he sat once again in the squad car and was driven to the church. Inside, Pastor Martin gave him a razor, soap, plus a towel, and instructed him to clean himself up. Returning freshly shaved and sink washed, he was given a complete suit with shoes, socks, and tie. A couple more were placed in a bag, and another bag had baby clothes and a few dresses for Tom's wife. The bags were placed in the trunk of the squad car, and they all walked to the bank. Rocky had a short talk with the bank president, then Tom was introduced. Seated, Tom looked at the young man behind the desk and worried that Rocky might have told of his past. Tom, Rocky has explained your previous arrest and why. Also, he has explained the circumstances regarding your arrest. We'll leave the past where it belongs, in the past, and concentrate on the future. I need to tell her, and Rocky here tells me I can trust you. That alone is good enough for me. We'll forego the trial period and put you straight to work. On the intercom, he had the head teller come in and meet the new teller and set him up for training. While Rocky had been working to get Tom in his position, Talbot had rushed home. He had a spare bike that would do to get Tom to work until things got better for him. The bike was locked outside the bank, and Tom was given the key. We'll drop the bags off at your place and let your wife know you'll be home after work. Tom excused himself and walked out with Talbot and Rocky. He was in tears with gratitude. They could have easily locked him up. Instead, they had given him and his family a new lease on life. Driving to drop off his bags, Talbot was in a good mood. Sometimes it's great not doing your job, he chuckled. Rocky corrected him. This was doing our job. We've got to enforce the law, but that doesn't mean we have to throw everybody in jail. Talbot agreed. Let's just call it an alternative to incarceration. On the way home after work, they picked up Michaela and Agnes for a celebratory dinner in town. Rocky checked on Tom and his wife every now and then, and things seemed to be picking up for them. They had a crib for the baby and a new mattress and bed, and made a more comfortable sleeping arrangement. After the fourth visit, Talbot saw too many changes too fast. He mentioned this to Rocky as they were driving around 2 weeks after getting Tom's position. Rocky thought about it. Talbot had a sharp eye and might have seen something Rocky missed. We'll check on them again in a couple of days. In the meantime, I'll see how he's doing at the bank. The president greeted Rocky warmly. Sheriff, I can't thank you enough for sending Tom over. He's been a real asset and is making fast strides. He wants to learn everything and is doing well. So well that we felt the test was in order. You know, he was $25 over yesterday? The exact amount we put in. We know he's truly honest now. We'll keep a close watch on him so we don't make the same mistake twice. Rocky was satisfied, and on the way out congratulated Tom on how he had taken to banking. The bank manager stepped outside for a smoke, and he and Rocky talked some more. I heard about Tom's predicament. Poor guy with a family out off the rural road. I decided to hand them a sign-on bonus to make sure he and his family are a little more comfortable. It's made it easier for him to concentrate here. We took on a new security guard, too. Chester was getting too old to think here and wasn't able to work the nights we needed him to. Got him sleeping more than once. The new man seems to be doing all right too. He stays awake and does his rounds often. I can see him at night, or at least his flashlight as he walks around checking things. I think we're as secure as we can get. Rocky congratulated him and finished his walk around town. Things were quiet, so he sent Talbot home. Spending the evening in the courthouse, he prepared to do a final walk around town before heading home himself. As he passed the bank, he saw the flashlight moving around the manager had spoken of. Knocking at the window, he chuckled as the flashlight went dashing towards the back. Not particularly brave, but at least any criminal would know someone was around. Finishing his round, he headed home. The next morning, Agnes was up early fixing breakfast while Rocky made the bed and tidied up. Tomorrow would be Rocky's turn to make breakfast, and he had a new recipe he was anxious to try called Sox's breakfast bake. Downstairs, he was more than a little surprised to see sausage and baked beans. Ted was already seated and digging in enthusiastically. It's an odd breakfast, but darn good. Rocky sat down to his own portion, not sure about it, but unwilling to hurt Agnes's feelings. It actually was pretty good. Kissing her goodbye, Rocky had to practically drag Talbot out as he was on his third helping. In the squad car, Rocky rolled down the windows just in case. Agnes was glad to get them out of the house. She had a surprise in store for Rocky and needed to get to the bank quick. In her lockbox were 100 Eisenhower silver dollar coins. Each was now worth about $15, and she was going to turn them in. With that much money, she could get Rocky a new truck. She figured his older one could stay with her dad. Agnes waved to Talbot as he was out doing the drive around town. As she passed the courthouse, she knocked on the door, then burst away towards the bank at top speed. When Rocky opened the door, there was nobody there. Shrugging, he closed up and went for a walk. He was passing the bank when he heard the head teller rush out the door and collided with him. Pulling him inside, he was escorted into the bank president's office. Seated in front of the desk were Agnes and Tom. Agnes looked angry, and Tom was panicking. The president had Agnes' lockbox, and when he opened it, it contained $101 bills. Agnes burst out, "There should be 100 silver dollars, not paper ones." The president interceded. "Well, we don't know for sure what happened. It seems someone replaced the silver with paper, figuring it was dollar for dollar. When I saw Tom here flipping what looked to be a silver dollar, I brought him in." Tom turned frightened eyes to Rocky. "It's my lucky piece. I've had it for years. I can't prove it, and since I already have a record, I guess there isn't a way to ask you to take my word." Agnes laid a hand on his arm, her anger subsiding for the moment. "Tom, nobody can arrest you without proof, and simply having a silver dollar in possession isn't proof." Rocky examined the lockbox. "It doesn't look as if it's been forced. Who has access to the keys?" "Well, the teller, myself, and Tom here. He's been training for extra duties. I just hope I didn't choose the wrong person." Tom paled and his head sunk. Was he ever going to be able to live down the past? "Sir, let's not jump the gun here. Is there any way to check the customers if any of other swaps have been made?" "Sheriff, we may run into problems if we have customers check their boxes. We don't know what anyone has in them, so how can we know if they're lying?" Rocky thought the best solution was to keep things quiet for now and wait until someone else reported a swap or something missing. The bank president agreed, and Tom was sent back to work. Rocky stayed in the office with the president a while longer, then stopped to talk to Tom on his way out. "Look, I vouch for you again. Like Agnes said, just having the silver dollar isn't proof, and I won't arrest without proof. Just keep your nose clean, and I'll clear us up as well as your name." Tom was grateful the sheriff was backing him, but felt terrible that he had to. That night, Agnes was doing the night walk with Rocky. They sat outside the bank watching the light moving around. It seemed the watchman was pacing back and forth. Rocky knocked on the door, and from Agnes' point of view, it looked like as if the watchman had rushed to the back room and then returned to answer the door. A bright light shined into Rocky's face and quickly lowered. "Sorry, Sheriff. Something I can do for you?" "Nah, just checking everything's all right." "Yep, been pretty quiet. I have to keep walking around or I'll fall asleep." As he talked, the flashlight swung from his arm, making a bar of light on the pavement. Rocky said goodnight and went to finish his round. As they walked, Rocky couldn't rid himself of the thought that something didn't seem right. The next day, the head teller came barging into the courthouse. "You've got another swap out." Rocky and Talbot rushed over to the bank. In the president's office was a small, balding man looking very upset. The lockbox was open and a roll of stamps slid to the front. "I had a valuable collection of stamps in there, and now I have his here roll." Talbot asked who had access, the same as Rocky had. On Rocky's word, Tom still had access to the lockboxes, and Talbot immediately brought him in. Tom denied any knowledge of what had happened to the stamps, but he could see that people were struggling to believe him. He was told to close out his drawer and go home for the day. It was made clear that he was not fired. They just wanted to give him time to clear his head. Rocky and Talbot sat in the president's office. "You know, something's bothering me." Rocky was looking pensively at the floor. "I was doing my rounds yesterday. As you said, I could tell that your watchman was doing his walk-arounds by the flashlight swinging." Rocky sat upright. "When I came to the door, he was midpoint in front of the teller's cage. When I knocked, he went to the back and re-emerged again." "Sir, can you tell me why he'd go to the back instead of just opening the door? He was 10 feet from it." The president shrugged and tried to think of a reason, but was having a hard time. Maybe Parker took off his gun belt and had to go put it on again. Rocky tried to picture the night guard's uniform. Sorry. The gun belt was on, squared away. It didn't look as if it had been put on hurriedly. "Sir, Talbot and I will be outside tonight. Would you mind joining us, say, around 2200? We may need to go inside, but do it quietly." The president made a note to arrive at the time specified. Rocky and Talbot arrived early and sat on the bench outside. Around 21:30, it was dark enough they could see the flashlight making its rounds. "The guard is about as tall as you, Talbot. Try and match his pacing." Talbot did a pretty good match, but he had to shorten his stride by about half. Matching the turn looked odd, too. It was as if the man performed a half circle instead of a short, just swap turn. Another thing odd was that the guard always stayed near the window so that the light was always visible. "No, but you bring my attention to it. It does seem odd." He watched Talbot as he continued to walk with short, choppy steps. Rocky had almost seen enough. "Talbot, keep walking, but put your hand about where the handle of the flashlight should be." Talbot had to bend over to match the swing of the light. His back's got to be hurting like hell if he's in this position all night. What's the point, anyways? Rocky grinned as an idea came to him. Up back of the bank was a patch of grass and a few trees. He led the way and did a thorough search. What he found seemed to have pleased him. "We're ready now." The president didn't seem to understand, but stood ready to do what was asked of him. "Sir, would you and Talbot enter through the front door while I enter through the rear?" The president handed over a key and walked swiftly to the front. Something was going to happen, and he was starting to become enthusiastic. Talbot opened the door, requesting for the president to stay behind him. When the door opened, the alarm went off, and a tan blur rolled into the rear, barking loudly. "Shut up, darn dog!" came a voice from the back. All lights came on, and when the guard was standing trying to remove the flashlight from his bull mastiff. Rocky slammed the back door after having enough time to see what was happening. The guard made as if to draw his sidearm, but a warning from the front and the sight of Talbot with his gun already drawn was enough. He took off his gun belt and laid it on the table. On the table was a stack of silver certificate $5 bills, while next to them was an equivalent stack of current fives. An open safety deposit box rested on the table. The guard tried to talk himself clear. Look, it's not really like I stole anything. I put in exactly the same amount as I took out. Perhaps, but not at the same value. Let's go to your place and take a look around, shall we? Clearing up the case was a mess, since a few things had already been sold. But thanks to Parker's neurotically orderly record keeping, almost everything was recovered. Tom was cleared of all suspicion and received an apology from the bank. Rocky and Talbot were convinced to take up Tom's case and clear his record. It might take a while, but they promised to do what he could. So that's all that is in this particular chapter, or the first part of the book. So I'm curious to know your thoughts. What do you think? Is this good? What should I change? Do you like the ending, how it's cleared up? Let me know what you think and just put it in the comments. I really would appreciate some help here. Hopefully I'll have this done within maybe a month or two. And I'm looking forward to getting this out. So any help I can get would really be good. You have a good day. The next time we do a reading, I will try and get to the Galactic Culinary Society. I know I promised to do that. I'm doing 3 books at one time. I'm doing a new edition of the Time Is series, number 8, which I don't have a title for yet. But, well, I'll tell you about that next time I do a reading. I'll let you know what that's going to be about. I'm doing this one, and I'm doing another one called World Mind. So I'm getting busy. Do me a favor. There's a couple more days left to my sale on Smashwords. Everything's 25% off, so if you need a good book, please check that out and take a look. Look under my name, David Booker, and all my books will be under there. So that's it for today. I look forward to seeing you again on my next reading. I hope you enjoyed this and hope you'll look forward to seeing this book out in print. You have a good day. Take care of yourself. Bye.